There comes a time, not in the calendar sense, but in the deep interior rhythm of your life, when the questions that once motivated you begin to fall silent. Not because they've been answered, but because they begin to feel like echoes of a language you no longer need to speak. The striving quiets, the reaching grows tired, the self, once so concerned with becoming, begins to tremble under the weight of its own effort, and something deeper, older, truer, begins to stir. Maybe it begins with a feeling you cannot explain, a stillness beneath the noise, a flicker of recognition in a quiet moment, a strange longing that doesn't point forward but inward, like a memory of something you never learned but have always known. It is not a desire for more. It is the yearning to finally come home, to lay down the constant reaching, to rest, not in apathy, not in resignation, but in something sacred, something already here. This is the beginning of the return. We have been trained, from the first breath, to identify ourselves with the surface, with the body, with the roles we play, with our thoughts, our history, our personality, our preferences. This is who I am, we say, pointing to a name, a face, a timeline. And yet, behind the voice that says I am, behind even the thought itself, there is something else, something silent, something watching, something utterly still, something that does not age, does not need, does not strive, something that does not live inside the story of time, that something is you, not the you who is listening to this, not the thinker, not the seeker, not the self with goals and fears, but the you that existed before any of it, the self behind the self, the light behind the eyes, the beingness that was present before your first memory and which will remain long after the final chapter of your story fades. That self does not need to be improved. It does not need to be healed. It does not need to be sought. It only needs to be remembered. You see, awakening is not a process of becoming something more. It is a process of unbecoming all that you are not. The body will still live. The world will still move. But something in you will have shifted, not into a new state, but into what has always been. All that is required is that you stop long enough to see what is here when you are no longer reaching, no longer measuring, no longer narrating your existence to yourself. In that space, between breaths, between thoughts, something begins to shine, still, wordless, whole. And in that stillness, a knowing arises. I am. Not I am this, not I am that. Simply, I am. That is the threshold. That is the sacred remembering. That is the beginning of the return, not to a belief, not to a philosophy, but to being itself, silent, luminous, and present beyond time. We are born into a world that believes in progress, that glorifies movement, that honors the climb. From our earliest moments, we are taught that life is about going somewhere, achieving, advancing, becoming. And so, without realizing it, we internalize the belief that what we are now is not enough, that somewhere ahead of us, some imagined version of ourselves, finally fulfilled and whole, is waiting. This is the myth of becoming, and it is the root of all spiritual exhaustion. Because no matter how far we climb, no matter how many teachings we consume, how many practices we perform, how many books we read, or moments of clarity we briefly touch, that horizon of fulfillment seems to move just out of reach, always a little further, always a little later. It is the carrot hung just beyond the nose of the seeker, and the seeker, believing in the necessity of the journey, keeps walking. But what if the journey itself is the veil? What if the very identity of the seeker, noble, determined, spiritual, is actually the final disguise of the ego? A subtler mask, yes, a more refined role, but a mask nonetheless. Because what is a seeker, if not someone who assumes they do not already have what they are looking for? Pause here. Breathe. Feel what arises in the silence behind that question. The truth is this: the one who seeks is also the one who obscures. The self cannot be found because it was never lost. It cannot be gained because it was never lacking. It cannot be approached because it is not ahead. It is here, now, and has always been. And the moment that lands in the heart, not just as concept, but as knowing, the seeker dissolves like salt in warm water. No thunderclap, no fireworks, just the absence of tension, just the end of the chase, and what remains is stillness, not passive, not vacant, but radiant, alive, silent and overflowing, a joy without opposite, a love that requires no object, a presence that needs nothing to confirm itself. This is the end of the illusion of becoming, the end of the spiritual persona, the end of the inner striving, the end of the search for a better self. It is the moment when you see, with piercing simplicity, that you are not a self that evolves. You are the field in which all seeming evolution occurs, untouched, unchanged, eternal. You are not the character moving through time. You are the awareness in which the dream of time appears. You are not the one who finds peace. You are the space in which peace reveals itself when the noise fades. The seeker will ask, "What now?" But presence does not ask. It does not need a next. It is whole in its isness. And you, when you are not identified with thought, not identified with form, are that I am, before name, before role, before body, before belief. I am, no future, no past, just this, just now, just the presence that watches all movement without moving. And that presence, that which does not seek, is what you are. There is a moment, subtle, unspeakable, when the distance collapses, the distance between inside and outside, between the breath and the wind, between the seer and the seen, between the observer and the world observed. For most of our lives, we walk with a deeply conditioned belief that we are here, inside this skin, inside this body-mind, looking out at a world that is over there, that our thoughts happen in here and events happen out there, and that the two are somehow separate. But the more we rest in awareness, the more the edges begin to dissolve, and what once seemed like other begins to shimmer with familiarity. The tree you observe begins to feel like an extension of your own presence. The sky above starts to reflect something more intimate than just weather or color. Even pain in another's eyes begins to resonate in your own chest as if you're watching a memory, not from a distance, but from within. This is not fantasy. This is not mysticism. This is the direct seeing that arises when the me softens, when the rigid shell of the self begins to crack. When you stop identifying with the story of separateness, you begin to see what was always true. The world is not separate from you, not in metaphor, not in symbol, in truth. Everything that you perceive arises in you, not the personal self, not the thinker, but in the field of awareness that you are. There is no out there apart from the consciousness in which it appears. You are not in the world is in you. Nisargadatta Maharaj put it plainly, you are not in the world is in you. And when this lands, not in theory but in perception, the boundaries vanish. The world is no longer something you navigate. It is you, moving through yourself, not the ego, not the mind, but the self, infinite, indivisible, appearing as bird, tree, stranger, sorrow, sunlight, ocean, and breath. Ramana Maharshi pointed not to union, but to the recognition that there was never disunion. He saw no others. He saw only the self, expressing through different faces, appearing in various guises, all made of the same indivisible essence. And when that essence is seen in all things, something radical happens. Love. not the love of emotion or desire, but the love that is recognition. You are me, and I am you, not because we're similar, but because we are the same light. Wayne Dyer echoed this truth in modern language. Change the way you look at things, he said, and the things you look at change, because the one looking is not separate from the looked upon. The quality of your perception is the quality of your world. The peace you embody is the peace you perceive. The resistance you harbor becomes the resistance you face. The self does not look out at the world. It shapes the world by being. And when this is realized, compassion ceases to be a practice. It becomes inevitable. You stop trying to help others because you see there are no others. You are simply caring for yourself in another form. You stop trying to fix the world, not because you don't care, but because you understand. The world is not broken. It is misunderstood. The self, appearing as the world, longs only to be seen, not judged, not improved, just seen, clearly, lovingly, without division. And when you see the world as yourself, and yourself as the world, a gentle stillness settles over everything. You do not flee. You do not cling. You meet life as it is, as you are, without edges. I am that bird, that sky, that breath, that sorrow, that flame, that child, that silence. I am not separate from the world. The world is the mirror in which I recognize my own face. If you pause long enough, not just externally, but inwardly, you may begin to feel something subtle, something steady, beneath all the motion of life, beneath the stream of thought, beneath the rhythm of breath, beneath every rise and fall, every gain and loss, every season of becoming and dissolving. There is something that does not come and does not go. It is not a thing. It is not a feeling. It is not a state of mind. It is not even a spiritual experience. It is a flame, not one that burns with heat or consumes fuel, but a flame of awareness, constant, silent, undiminished by time. It has been with you since before memory. It was there before you knew a name for yourself. It was present when joy arose and when sorrow visited. It witnessed every high and every fall, and it is here now as you listen, as you breathe, as you sit in this exact and irretrievable moment. You are that flame, not the flickering forms it illuminates, thoughts, identities, moments, bodies, but the illuminating itself. You are not what changes. You are what sees change. You are not in time. Time is in you. You are the silent stillness around which the dance of becoming moves, not apart from it, but not bound by it either. This is the eternal self, not a doctrine, not a belief, not a philosophy, but the felt, lived truth of being itself. Nisargadatta Maharaj spoke this with ferocity and clarity. You are the absolute. You are the light in which the world appears. You are not the body. You are not the mind. You are not even the I am. And what he meant was not to strip you of identity, but to reveal what remains when all false identity falls away. When even the I am dissolves, what remains is that which never left, the changeless ground, the eternal flame, not something distant, not something earned, but what was present even in your most unconscious moment, watching, waiting, loving without name. Ramana Maharshi lived as this flame. He had no desire to become anyone. He did not need to move, to speak, to teach. His very presence was the teaching, because it revealed that nothing needed to happen for the self to be whole. In his gaze, others remembered what they were before they started searching. He was not the fire. He was what made the fire visible, the light of the self, silently radiant. Wayne Dyer reminded us again and again that the soul is not something we have. It is what we are. Not a fragment, not a possession, not something that can be improved or threatened. The soul is the eternal field of presence in which this temporary life unfolds. And when we stop identifying with the temporary, we fall backward into what has no end. This is not a mystical escape from life. This is the full embrace of life, but from the still point, from the center that cannot be touched by chaos. To live as the eternal flame is to walk through change with peace, to meet loss without fear, to move, act, speak, but from a silence so deep that no storm can shake it. You are the flame, not the candle, not the wax, not even the heat. You are the light. When the body falls, that light remains. When the mind quiets, that light remains. When all forms dissolve, that light remains. It has no edge, no origin, no destination. And the most astonishing truth is this: you already know this. You have always known. You have simply forgotten, distracted by the movement, hypnotized by the dance. But even in forgetting, the flame kept burning. Even in seeking, you were never separate from what you sought. Return to the flame, not by effort, by stillness, by surrender, by simply being. At the end of all seeking, there is no fanfare, no final revelation written in lightning, no angels singing, no voice from beyond. Only this, the quiet realization that you were never apart, that the one who searched, the path that stretched ahead, and the truth you longed to find were all reflections within the same infinite mirror. What you are looking for is what is looking, and what remains when all striving dissolves, when all identities soften, when the future no longer pulls and the past no longer defines, is not a state, not an experience, not even an understanding. It is a presence, silent, radiant, still, undeniable, and it speaks without words. It does not say, you are this or you are that. It simply says, I am. Not a concept, not an affirmation, not a sentence in a holy book, but a living vibration pulsing at the center of your being, before thought, beneath breath, behind every rise and fall of experience. I am, that which does not move, that which does not need, that which is before all form, and yet contains all form within it. I am, not a person, not a name, not a body, just being, just presence, just the infinite appearing as the finite for a little while and then dissolving back into itself without loss. And when you hear this voice, not through ears, but through the open silence of your own awareness, something shifts. Not an awakening as event, but as recognition, a remembering. I am that I am. I am not in this body. This body is in me. I am not in this thought. This thought arises in me. I am not in the world. The world appears in me, like a reflection on still water, real yet weightless. And then something even more tender, more staggering, more intimate is seen. So are you, the one who walks beside me, the one I have feared, resisted, loved, judged, the one I've tried to save, tried to escape, tried to understand. You too are that, not as a belief, not as a poetic sentiment, but as literal truth. The same flame burns behind your eyes. The same presence breathes in your chest. The same silent self rests beneath your story. There is no other. There is no separation. There is only this, appearing as many, playing as two, remembering itself as one. And when you live from this, not as an idea, but as a resting place, the world begins to shine. Not because it has changed, but because you see clearly. You see God in every face. You hear the absolute in the wind. You taste the infinite in silence. And you walk, not above the world, but through it, as light. If you felt a quiet resonance in these words, if something in you has stilled or stirred or softened, you are ready, not to learn more, not to become more, but to simply remember what you already are and have always been. I have written a book for you. It was born from silence, and it returns to silence. It is called I Am That, I am. Realizing the self beyond thought, time, and form. If you feel called to deepen this remembrance, to walk page by page through the slow and sacred undoing of all that is not you, then I invite you to explore it. The link is in the description below, but know this, you do not need anything to be what you are already that. And now you know, return to silence, return to stillness, return to being. I am that I am, and so are you.